So to start, what's your personal connection to Sunderland and its music scene? And what's inspired you to get into music in the first place?
I guess my connection is pretty much everything I do these days, but the way I first got into it was went to college and met some like-minded people and started getting into the local band scene, as it were, and then over time I built up the confidence to ask them to let me DJ in between the bands and things like that, and then yeah, that was the first kind of like thing I did to try and get into stuff, and then it wasn't long after that really that I started a club night in Sunderland. It's actually still going in this venue. It's called Cool for Cat, and yeah, and then yeah, I didn't really see myself as being a musician, and I just met some like-minded people, Michael and Dave from the band, and we had an idea of starting a band that sounded a bit like Orange Juice and a bit like the Smiths and a bit like Dexys Midnight Runners, and things happened very fast, and then we were signed as a band, and it was my job for a long time. So yeah, not a traditional kind of route, but still I did get off my backside and go and explore a kind of counterculture myself. I was quite excited by it. There was lots of bands kicking off at the time, like the Future Heads had just really broke through to the mainstream. There was a band called They Say in Vegas, the Golden Virgins had done stuff just before that as well. Field music was starting to get recognition. So yeah, it was a nice time to try and get involved in stuff in Sunderland, and everyone was really keen to attend gigs or put on gigs or be in bands. So it was cool, and a lot of those people are still doing stuff right now.
Yeah. So was there a lot that you had to sacrifice to get where you are today, and even just to get your foot in the door in places?
I guess like I don't know. I think because like I think initially no, because it was just like I was very young, and that was my choice of like social circles and things like that. So I didn't sacrifice anything. In fact, I gained quite a lot of things and became I think a better rounded person for meeting different people and being in different scenarios. And I used to travel a lot to see live music, and I think that really is really good for your personality and your understanding of the wider world and things like that. And no, I mean, in recent years, I've probably sacrificed a lot for lots of like media commitments and things like that, like weekends and evenings and that kind of thing. But no, it was absolute privilege, and still is a privilege when good things come along and fun things. And we only started the band because we wanted to see or hear a band like that in Sunderland, and we said anything that happened beyond getting a gig in the pub where I worked at the time was a bonus. So I'm still getting bonuses right now.
So thinking back to when you first started out, how was the music scene then compared to now? And is it better or is it worse?
It's very different. There wasn't any really purpose-built music venues, so when I first started going to gigs in Sunderland, there was like function rooms of cricket clubs and upstairs of pubs, that kind of thing. Not long after that, the first independent came along and places like that. But now, I think if we use one big weekend as a barometer, that kind of happened like 21 years ago or whatever. The infrastructure wasn't great, but there was loads of people really hungry and passionate about the music. And you have that now. It's obviously different genres and different people, but there's still like things that are still running, which were running then and have run before that. So things like institutions like the Bunker are quite important in Sunderland. There's still promoters who were putting on gigs then are still putting on gigs now. You can't underestimate the power the Future Heads have had on the cultural scene of Sunderland. And I like to think that our band contributed not just musically but also culturally as well because of places like this, Dave and then now Michael running this place, So yeah, kind of lost the initial point of the answer, but yeah, I mean, no, I didn't make any sacrifices really. And if anything, it's just nowadays that I sacrifice my evenings and weekends with my family, but they understand. It's the world I come from.
Yeah. So Pop Rex, where we are now, was opened, and if I'm not mistaken, it was to promote your second album, which was The Days Run Away.
Yeah.
But it's now turned into a local venue.
Yeah.
It's easily recognised in the northeast, specifically Sunderland. But how is it to see something that was just supposed to be a 2-week pop-up thing now like a thriving place in Sunnyside?
I'm really proud of my association with the venue and the project. Although all the credit really needs to go to Dave and Michael in recent years as well, since Dave passed away. Because we were all involved as a band. Like the first year, we were all like really, most of us were working in the original store, and then it was hard to make ends meet. So I was offered some media work, which I took, and didn't really look back. But yeah, I mean, it was only meant to be for 2 weeks, and it was just really well received by the people of Sunderland. It was given something that Sunderland hasn't really had before. And we had good connections with musicians, artists, labels, that kind of thing. So there's always a chance that something special can happen, and there is loads of special gigs happen here. It's a special place. But we learnt as businessmen as well, like how we had to adapt. So in the initial store was just meant to be a record store. We got like a really primitive coffee machine, and really quickly realised that more people were buying coffee than records, which is just the state of the music industry, I guess. Which is why Pop Rex is still here, I guess, is because people like Dan Shannon worked here for a long time, and we've got people like Polly who work in the cafe and are really good baristas, and that's the lifeblood of Pop Rex, really. The gigs are great, but you can't really rely on them, but people have like the Wens and stuff like that in here now, which is cool. Yeah, I mean, it was just, there was no strategic plan really. Sometimes the best ideas are that way.
Obviously, that Sunderland became a music city last year, January, which is a brilliant thing. But how essential are these local venues for up-and-coming artists, but also to help the city retain its status as a music city?
Yeah, they're really integral to that city status as a music city. When we pitched the idea of Sunderland becoming a music city, I think maybe internally it was sneered, but externally it really wasn't. And I firsthand know this because I've done like press days in like Japan and Australia, and people would ask me like, "Whoa, what's it like to live in Sunderland? It must be great. There's all these bands." I'm thinking like, yeah, I mean it's all right, but obviously I told the party line as if you like, and just agreed with them. But yeah, so like externally we have got a bit of a reputation for that, and the city is really looking for new identities. We're tremendously proud of our industrial heritage, but we need to find new identities for the city. And because we've got such a rich linear history of music or musicians or people working within the music industry, it feels like a really tangible one to jump onto. And when we had the Music Cities Network delegates over to kind of assess us, they were totally blown away by it. And it was just things like wherever they went, people were proud to tell them stories of Sunderland or their favourite gig, or all the local businesses and significant businesses and organisations really bought into it as well. And they didn't really get that in other major cities, so we were really expecting to get a hard time off the Music Cities Network to be able to meet their requirements, but they were completely blown away. So much so that they often use our music strategy, which we wrote for the next 5 years. And they use that as a kind of exemplar music strategy and roll it out in other major cities like Valencia and things like that. So you're very proud, and I think it's not kind of like saying, "Oh, we are an amazing music city," because there's loads of gaps and there's loads of challenges, as there is in every music city or city. But what it does is it creates a foundation of like where we are now, and what kind of infrastructure could we put in place to make it easier to be a musician, or certainly work within the music sector. And I think we've done a lot of work on that, and it's completely informed by both the public and the music sector as well. So yeah, I don't know how long we'll be working doing this, but while we are, myself and certainly Marty, the other music officer, we're dedicated to try and reach every goal we wrote on that strategy.
Yeah, just touching on what you said about the industry, a lot of people from Sunderland, and specifically the North East, they have a proudness of the industrial past that we have had. In the music industry, do do you think that is touched upon and shown, and also do you think it's a negative or a positive thing?
So do I think that it's positive or negative that we've got a reputation for being a post-industrial town?
Yeah, so like is like our industrial past shown in music, like yes or no? Also, is it positive or negative?
I think your surroundings are incredibly integral to you as an artist, and I think they influence your music whether you know it or not, and that subconscious has made Sunderland artists stand out, to be honest. I think I often say this thing, or I used to always say this thing, where I'd say, you know, how can you, we're from Sunderland, it's never been fashionable, so we never actually go out of fashion either. And that's really powerful. You know, we don't buckle the trends really as artists or musicians. We kind of just go, we stay in our own lane as creatives and make the sounds we want to create. And we don't buckle the current trends, and I think actually the industry appreciates that.
Also, you have an officer role as a Sunderland Music City. What should people know about your role and what you do for the city in terms of the music industry?
Yeah, I guess the main thing I want to try and do is create opportunities and link people up, because that is so much, that has so much power. You know, in a time when funding is incredibly hard to come by, I think just putting the right people in touch with a person they've never met before, or links to a venue or space or place or promoter or keyboard player or whatever, that can go far and that can actually change lives. Exposing young people to music at a time when they might want to choose a path in life, that could change lives as well, creating opportunities. Putting on lots of free events as well can change people's path in life. So yeah, I think that's what we want to try and achieve, just opportunity and connectivity.
Yeah. Linking back to get the Music City stuff, you have your new podcast, well not new, but a new episode this month that came out. Why should people tune in and what should they expect to hear?
Yeah, so the podcast is a bit of a funny one. I'm glad you brought it up, because we're kind of still working through our strategy, aims and ambitions, which is quite heavy going for podcasts. But then we did a bonus podcast because we launched the radio station this month, so we spoke around that. And I think the podcast will evolve to be a more casual kind of conversation about topical things within the Sunderland music sector, and beyond as well. I do it with Ross, who's in Frankie and the Heartstrings and the Future Heads more famously. And yeah, I think it's important that people check it out, because it's just like a slightly different way to consume the strategy, which is pretty heavy stuff. But there's also loads of good like tips and techniques and people on there. And most of the people we work with at Sunderland Music City are very contactable as well. So yeah, I mean, whatever way you're looking at it, if you're coming at it from an artist point of view, or radio student point of view, or marketeer's point of view, or audience development point of view, get involved and get in touch. You know, we all want the best for the city kind of thing. So yeah, subscribe, like and subscribe.
For the radio that you've released, the Sunderland Music City radio, it's great how it's a platform for North East, or specifically Sunderland artists. How important is it for the future of Sunderland that they'll have a radio station that they can push their own name onto and get their foot in the door?
Well, if anyone's watching this and they are a musician of any type and they create music, they'll know that it's really hard to find a platform for their art, and radio is one of those industries which is getting increasingly harder to get on, basically. So to use BBC Introducing as an example, it's a great outlet, but their radio show in the Northeast was reduced from 2 shows to 1 show, which means you've got double the amount of hard time to try and get on there, you know. So what we offer with Sunderland Music City Radio is, if you are from or associated with the city of Sunderland, send us your music and it will go on, unless it's like 4 minutes of like swearing and farting or whatever, but it will go on there, and that's good for your musical CVs, you know. In time, we'd like to curate shows by people from the community. It's just manpower at the moment, so we're building up the database of music, and also station sound is created by the people of Sunderland, so if anyone wants to record a jingle, they can do so as well. And if anyone's watching or listening to this and they want to send us the music, just go to the Music City's website and you'll find details of how to submit your MP3s.
Obviously on your podcast you talk about Ross with Summer Street. It's on the horizon. It's a great festival for Sunderland and Roker. Why do you think it's so important that we have annual events like Summer Street every year in Sunderland?
Well, I think it's expected annual events in any other major city, so we should also have that, you know, especially live music. And I think over the last few years, certainly maybe in the existing time of Summer Streets, people come to expect live music, especially in the summertime. To use that as an example, it's amazing. You know, you could watch a main stage act of note for completely free, and you can see like dolphins in the sea in the background. And I think Sunderland generally has a PR problem about no one knows we've got a seaside, which is mental to anyone who comes from Sunderland. But people from outside of Sunderland don't know about that we are a city by the sea. So yeah, that's a great example you pulled out there, Summer Streets. And I just think live music in general is expected. Obviously, we've got Radio 1 Big Weekend coming. Keele Square's seemingly the new natural city centre, which is cool. But we shouldn't, you know, forget about all the amazing grassroots venues that are in the city centre, putting on bands all the time, probably at a loss most of the time. And you don't get those festival acts unless you go and invest in those new emerging artists as well. So that's a kind of sector problem internationally, that no one goes to new music nights, but everyone pays like £300 to see Harry Styles, which is mad. And you don't get Harry Styles, well, maybe you do get Harry Styles because he came from like a reality TV show, but you don't get like an Ed Sheeran or something like that, or a Mumford and Sons, if you don't support them at a grassroots venue in the first place. So I would remind people of that. Although outdoor events are really cool, there's probably a live music event happening in your grassroots venue tonight.
So for many people at my age, touching on the Radio 1's Big Weekend, it's my first of a time that I'll be touching, because it's been 21 years, 2 decades since the last time. How amazing is it for that to be back in Sunderland, and what's the type of like financial impact that it's going to leave on the city?
Yeah, so I don't think there's any significance I don't think there's any coincidence that they've chosen to come back to Sunderland after, you know, we've been shouting about us being a music city and things like that. What we need to do is embrace it as a city and celebrate ourselves and show ourselves in our best light, which I'm sure we will do really authentically. It could mean a lot to the local economy. We want people coming before and after to the city centre. I know a lot of people have got some plans to do some kind of fringe events themselves, and they're not like kind of in spite of the One Big Weekend, but it's kind of cool that it is, because that's the real people of Sunderland doing their own thing, and I think that's what maybe the BBC want to see, the real countercultures in the community. So yeah, I mean, it should bring a lot of money, and hopefully the main thing I want is kind of a regular festival there, because what wasn't followed up 20 years ago was a regular festival there. It's a brilliant site for it. We know that the people of Sunderland and the North East will support it. We just need the right people to make the right calls to make it affordable, accessible and enjoyable. And yeah, it's an amazing thing for the city, absolutely amazing. Like the eyes of the world are going to be on us again.
Yeah, especially as well with 80% of the sales are towards people with an SR.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, the local people should be able to enjoy it, you know. We don't get really cool things that very often, but we do get international acts every single year at the Stadium of Light, pretty much, you know. We've got Take That playing there this year, which will probably sell out, which is mad. Like, there's like tens of thousands of people in the Stadium of Light watching Take That. But, you know, Beyonce does it, Bruce Springsteen does it, Rihanna does it, like Coldplay do it. We get major acts all the time. And I think, you know, if you tell people this, they are reminded that they are a music city and become proud of that. It's the old taxi driver test, I think. If you get in the back of a taxi and you say about music city and stuff like that, I think maybe like 10, 15 years ago they'd kind of laugh at you. But now there's kind of no denying it, you know. There's amazing music things happening all the time.
Yeah. What gives you the most hope about the future of music and creativity, both combined in Sunderland for the future?
I think what gives me the most hope is that there's opportunity for younger people and older people to get involved in music. So many youth groups, so many organisations, so many practitioners who are passionate about radio, passionate about music, and they want, well, I certainly want more people from Sunderland to be really successful, you know, and we've got this kind of ethos as well where bands respect that ladder. So like, use Tommy Smith for an example, he'll put an emerging band on with him when he plays the City. He's kind of like the front runner at the moment for the City in terms of who's breaking. He's playing South by Southwest as we speak, you know, flying the flag for the City, and that's great. His younger sister's really good. She's in the band. Like, she's really accomplished musician as well. And that's that kind of age group we just need to keep on encouraging. Hopefully they'll start their own club nights and put each other on at each other's nights and just nurture that organic, authentic scene. You know, I hate the word scene. It's just friends putting each other on, basically.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
And then, as well, you've said in your podcast many times outside as well that you see yourself as a radio nerd and you know a lot about it, as well as your media background. It's inspiring to see that we have our own university radio with Spark UK. Is it something that we definitely need for going forward? For, as you said before, it's hard to see that the radio it's kind of plateaued. It needs to be increased. It's great to see that the university in Sunderland has its own radio, especially like how the new radio for your Sunderland Music City. It's pushing more Sunderland, not just for the artists, but also for the people in the background of the industry and the media.
Oh yeah, I mean that's completely right. I think, you know, Sunderland University actually offers one of the best radio courses in the country. When I actually did the radio degree there, and I was pretty much the only person from Sunderland on the course. And there's so many people who've gone on to work behind the scenes in radio as producers and work for big organisations or whatever, and presenters obviously as well. So, you know, it's great, and it's all connected as well. You know, radio needs music to be on it. So plenty of people making music. Radio needs presenters and producers and playlisters and schedulers and all that kind of thing, and that's great. You know, I think, and especially, you know, if you're from the kind of visual media as well, with Crownworks coming on hopefully in the next couple of years, you know, it's something really special happening in Sunderland, and the media students especially and the journalism students should be involved, but getting stuck into the local scene now while they can, and starting their own things, and, you know, sharing stories of cool things, because, you know, there's going to be more and more eyes on this city, especially if you know, the football club keep on doing well and keep on putting us on a global platform as well. You know, this is amazing. This is like a it's a real transitional time for the city, and everyone's playing a part in it.
Yeah, I want to extend on exactly what you just said there. With the push up from the Championship to the Premier League, Sunderland's a massive club, one of the biggest in the English divisions. With it being now in the top division, how much limelight does that bring on the whole city as a whole? It's been a big journey for the club and also for the city as well. The last year, we've seen improvements in Riverside, now Crownworks. It just seems to be a brilliant time to be in Sunderland at the moment.
Absolutely, you know, the football club are kind of an amplifier for the city, and they do a really good job of that. What I like to do through my connections there is push local creatives to get a bit of a slice of their platform as well, and thankfully they are quite receptive to that as well. And I think they recognise that the authenticity of the people of Sunderland is what really makes the makeup of the club as well. Not just the, you know, marketing things, but also the makeup of the footballers. They want to play for the people, the working class, and, you know, value their transactions and things like that. So yeah, it's incredibly important, but it's great. It's been a long time coming. You know, it feels like when the football club's doing well, the city's doing well. There's no getting away from that. And you know, even though we've got a few injuries at the moment, we've still had an amazing season, and we can build for next season in the top flight, in the best league in the world.
Totally. And obviously your role as Music City officer, what is something that people can expect to see in the coming year, probably after the big weekend, in terms of music in the city?
Yeah, so we're currently in a huge project called the Year of Music, which is like a kind of funded period of time for Sunderland Music City, which ends in June. But before we end, we're actually hosting, I don't know if this is a bit of an exclusive, but that's fine. So you'll see some comms going out about this in the next week or so, but in June, Sunderland is actually hosting the Music Cities Network Summer Summit, which means all the other music cities in the world are sending representatives to have a working summit in Sunderland. So we're going to kind of build a conference around that, which will be a nice way to end the year of music, as it were. So that's pretty cool. We've got a folk festival coming up soon in Washington Arts Centre. We've just done an amazing jazz gig. Obviously the radio station will keep on ploughing ahead. The podcast will keep on ploughing ahead. We'll probably do our big charity gig again in December. We're already reaching out to some local celebs to come and do that. We've raised well over £100,000 for child poverty in Sunderland through those gigs over the last couple of years. And we just me and Marty are really passionate about completing the strategy and meeting all the points in there and working with as many authorities or bodies or practitioners or organisations to legitimise the music sector in Sunderland and try and make it a little bit of a difference.
It's brilliant what you do. And finally, just on a personal note for myself, I've been a Sunderland fan for as long as I remember. Obviously, I remember through COVID, your commentary on the Sunderland season pass you could watch from home. But that Dan Ballard goal, the viral clip, I was there, but obviously you had the joy of being the commentator on the Sunderland comms. And as you said, you'd never seen scenes like it. How was it to commentate on that game?
It was incredible. It was the best game of football I've ever seen and best moment of sport I've ever seen in with my own eyes. I think anyone who enjoyed it, like yourself, who was there, even if you're like 5 or 6, you'll be speaking about that moment for the rest of your life. I knew from that moment that we were going to the Premier League. Everyone felt it, you know. There was just something about that moment when you knew the fortunes of the city were changing. And I obviously didn't have any pre-planned lines, because how would you prepare for something like that? So I just lost myself in commentary, and I thought, you know, if we were to go up to the Premier League, it'd be very hard for Sunderland to get the rights to do the in-house channel as soon as we go straight up, which is kind of the situation we're in right now. So I thought, I've never really lost myself, but at the same time, so I was professionally aware, but I thought, I can't let this moment pass without enjoying it as a fan. So I just kind of like stood up on like the table on the gantry and was like screaming my head off like everyone else was. But the line, I've never seen scenes like it, was because I hadn't, like, people were like jumping on top of each other in like the corporate areas and the boxes and even the north stand, and they don't even ever make any noise really. There was like flares going off and stuff, but like it was honestly one of the loudest things I've ever experienced, and it was absolutely incredible. It was absolute privilege to be there, never mind be remembered for something in the moment, off the pitch kind of thing. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and we keep on having amazing moments as Sunderland fans. Obviously, we went on to win at Wembley, which again was in amazing circumstances, and I had the privilege of commentating at Wembley as well, and that was, you know, a dream come true as well. So, yeah, this football club, you know, it does things to you, but imagine not liking football. It's mad, isn't it?
You have to when you're from here, isn't it? It's kind of deep rooted in everybody's families. Even you've got like people in my family, they're Newcastle fans, but that's me auntie, and then my other auntie's a Sunderland fan.
Yeah.
And it's deep rooted in the whole of North East. But going back on the semi-final, you knew it was a big moment when Danny Collins started screaming with you as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty straight most of the time, you know, and he's quite factual, but he lost it as well. Like, it's impossible not to lose it in that moment, because it meant so much, and you knew, like, I just knew that was our moment, and didn't plan for it, but those moments are quite special when they're captured, aren't they?